Buying property in Mexico is not the same as buying in US or Canada. And not understanding this can cost you thousands of dollars. If you're thinking about buying real estate in Mexico, especially as a foreigner, there are three major differences you must understand before moving forward. Hi, my name is Mariana. For those of you that don't know me, I am a certified real estate agent and real estate lawyer in Mérida, Yucatán. And I help international buyers find their dream home, but also purchase in a safe and legal way. Today, I'm going to explain the three key differences that I find clients always have a question of, or that find out once they are looking for a home in Mexico, and why understanding these differences can help you avoid costly mistakes. If you like this kind of content, or you're thinking of moving to Mexico soon, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and follow us for updates in immigration law, real estate law, and real estate opportunities in Mérida, Yucatán. Difference number one, escrow. Now, in the US and Canada, most real estate transactions go through an escrow. For those of you that are not familiar with an escrow, the escrow is a third-party company or a neutral company that holds the funds and even documents until conditions are met. To give you an example, if I was purchasing real estate in United States, I might be used that I have to give a certain down payment to the seller, but that money won't reach the account of the seller. I actually send it to an escrow company that will hold that money until the seller signs the title on my name. Once conditions are met, then they receive their money and it's not part of my account anymore. So it's a neutral party that helps both parties comply and not fight over money matters. This is actually very beneficial because, in a sense, if you think about it, when you're giving a down payment to somebody, you might be afraid that something can happen to that person. They run away with your money. Who knows, right? So having a neutral third party is actually beneficial because everybody knows what will happen according to a contract if the money returns to you or is given as a penalty, and each party is protected in a sense. Typically, escrow companies will charge you a percentage of the wholesale price, and they're actually normally hired or paid by both parties. Now, in Mexico, although there are law firms or notaries that will offer you an escrow type service, the escrow per se is not really used, at least in Yucatan, and actually not every seller or developer will allow you to purchase through an escrow. This is because traditional real estate here is based a lot on trust. So you might think, how do people go about giving money and, to the seller or, vice versa, and making sure that the other one will comply? Well, typically here in Yucatan, we will sign something called an offer first, and then a promissory contract of sale, which this contract talks about a down payment being given that could be 5 to 10%. We try not to give more than that, and specifies the types of penalties that you would have if you withdraw, or if the seller withdraws, they would have to give you back the money and pay a penalty. Although the money typically reaches the seller or the developer's account, especially with developers, the government protects a lot the consumer and always is going to look for the interests of the person who's buying. Now, of course, we can't say that every individual or every developer per se is going to be honest with it. That's why having a real estate agent or a real estate lawyer combined, such as myself, is really good, because we try from the start to, again, not use or give a big down payment, or even go directly to the closing if possible. We also make sure to revise the documentation of the property before giving any down payment. That way, we're sure that if we're moving forward, the actual person who's selling is the seller and has the ability to sell this property to you. Some law firms and some notaries have created their own escrow accounts in the United States, and they can give you a escrow type service. Nevertheless, do have in mind that not all sellers or developers, like I said, will comply with you using an escrow. Most, if not all, will expect to receive the down payment in their personal account or the company's account. Also, be aware of just asking, for example, your real estate lawyer to handle the funds transfer or transferring money to them, there are a lot of laws with money laundering, and as real estate attorneys or real estate agents, we cannot receive some amounts or most of the amount in our personal accounts. Given that also if something happens to us between the giving of the money and the final title, and we, for example, pass away, that money could be lost. So it's a no-go and it's not suggested. Number 2, home inspections. In the US and Canada, home inspections before the closing are usual and actually expected by law. This helps the buyer to be aware of any details that the house could have, and of course, whether it's to put the price down or to make sure that those are fixed before the actual closing, that your closing is safe regarding structural things or things around the house. Now, in Mexico, inspections are not required by law for the closing. They are not automatic. And actually in Yucatán, you'll find very few people that will allow you to do an inspection on the property before the closing. You have 2 options. For example, if you are doing it with a developer, the developers don't allow you to come in and inspect before the delivery of the property, at least not all developers. Now, if you don't find someone that allows you to do the external inspection, what happens or how the consumer is protected is that the developer gives you by law certain guarantees. For example, minimum 5 years structural, 3 years waterproofing, 1 year external minimum. So when you walk through at the delivery of the property, they walk in with you, you make all the annotations that have to be done, the fixing, whatever, and they, by guarantee, have to fix them for you in a certain timeline with the guarantee. The NOM 247 actually goes to the point of saying that if there are repairs that cannot be repaired at all, that they must replace the thing, meaning they could give you back your money or give you another property that does meet the criteria. Now, in the case of individuals, an inspection could be requested. Again, the individual is not obligated to say yes because it's not required by law, but it could be something that could be talked about with your real estate agent from the beginning and from the offer. Do have in mind that if you bring in an external inspection, that doesn't mean that the price is going to go lower automatically, and also that you are responsible for paying both the escrow we were talking about before and the external inspection to your own cost. Difference number 3, the role of the notary. This is actually a question or confusion that a lot of clients have when we have our meeting regarding how to purchase in Mexico and what to expect, is the role of the notary. So in a lot of countries, I'll talk about US for example, we normally have a law firm, and law firms have notaries. They give faith of, for example, if you want to amend something or if you want to certify a document. And again, like I said, they normally work for law firms. I even had a client that went to UPS and had a notary certify something. That for me is something way different, and I'll explain why. In Mexico, a notary is a lawyer that goes through certain special exams after becoming a lawyer. And then if they pass those exams, they will be in line for getting a notary or the seal, the certification, whatever, once one passes away. So you can imagine it's not something easy to get to. Now, notaries here in Mexico have lawyers that work for them. And this is, for starters, the first thing you need to understand. Notaries are the only people who can give faith of a property purchase in Mexico. That's why at every closing, the notary should be present and certify that who's selling and who's buying are real people and the object, which is in this case the property, can be sold legally. Now, at what point does the notary actually come in? Now, a lot of confusion comes when clients ask me, like, I'm starting to look for a house, let me find the notary. Even though there are notaries that are very concerned and very involved in the closing process, notaries typically don't represent you as a buyer. Notaries are neutral parties that represent both parties. So when it comes to the actual process, typically you'll find a real estate agent. This real estate agent will help you to find the property, create an offer, and put it for the owner or the other real estate agent. Once this offer is accepted, then you can go get a notary, which will give you a lawyer that is under them, or you can hire your own real estate lawyer to be able to represent your interests in the whole closing process. Again, remember, the notary and the lawyers under them are neutral parties. They cannot make decisions or just represent your own interests. Something interesting about myself is I am, again, like I mentioned, a certified real estate agent, but I am also a property real estate lawyer. So what we do at Max Life Yucatan, or at Mariana in Yucatan, is that when you purchase with us, our commission actually comes from the seller. And we represent your interest at the law firm with no extra cost included to you. Of course, exceptions might apply, but the point here is that you minimize costs in closing costs, but that you're also well represented during the whole process. One of the most common mistakes foreign buyers make when buying a property abroad is assuming that buying in Mexico is the same as back home. It's not. And it's not a bad thing, as long as you understand the process and have the right guidance. If you're thinking about buying property in Mexico and you want to do it safely and easy, I've created a free guide that you can download in this next link that I will leave in the description down below. If you found this video helpful, feel free to subscribe, like the video, push notifications on, or contact me in the description below is my contact information so that we can start your Mexican adventure today. See you until the next time.